This is a detailed video of how to sew a tube gown with strap. So in this tutorial I'll be teaching you how to go about it. So here I'm making use of Ankara fabric and I want to cut out the upper piece of this tube dress. So here I'm making use of 1 yard of fabric Ankara. So I split it into two and I'm placing it the back side and the front side. So here I'm going to rule my line of my zipper allowance at 1 inch. Then I'll highlight my zipper allowance. After highlighting it, I'll place the folded part, which is the center front, on the zipper allowance. Secure with my pin. Then I'm going to make a border line, that is the shoulder starting point. So I'm drafting directly on fabric. So I'm taking the measurement of my chest line at 9 inches, my bust point at 10.5, my under bust at 14, and my waistline at 17. So I'll add half an inch for seam allowance, which is 17.5. So I'm highlighting my lines right now and I'm making it touch the zipper allowance. So I'm going to place my shoulder divide by 2, which is 7.5. Add half an inch for seam allowance. Then I'll place the same shoulder divide by 2 on the chest line to have a straight line for my armhole. So the neckline there is 3 inches. So, but we are not making a neckline there, it's a tube dress. So this is my bust point, my waistline, under bust and my waistline. So my bust span is 7, divided by 2 is 3.5. I will mark it on the bust point line. Then I'll add half an inch to it. On the under bust line, I will just measure 3.5, which is my bust span divided by 2, and I'll mark it on the waistline and rule a straight line. Then I'll connect to the bust point. So I'm going to find the midpoint of that shoulder and connect it to the bust point line. Then my strap is 6 inches from the shoulder. Just mark 6 inches for the over bust line and that will serve as my strap for the front. So I'll go out by 0.75 for my over bust. Then I'll come down from the chest line by half an inch. And then I'll connect my over bust line. So my dart intake is 1.5 there. So I'm going to create the sweetheart neckline right now. So it depends on how deep you want the sweetheart to be. From the shoulder, I will mark 7.5. You can make it 8 inches or even connect to the chest line. So with my curve ruler, I'm connecting, as you can see. So I believe you are seeing my chalk line. So I'm highlighting it for you to see. So on the chest line, I'm going to take the measurement of my bust circumference, divide by 4. So I'm skipping the dart to take that measurement. So I will add 2 inches for my seam allowance, then complete my armhole curve. So I'll just use a tube dress, just curve it in like that. Okay. So my dart is 1.5 like I said. So from that point I've connected my sweetheart. Next is the under bust line. We want to contour the under bust. So from the center dart I'll go by 2 inches. So if you're on a bigger size, go by 2.5 or 2.75. Then rule a straight line. I'll come in with my curve ruler and curve to the bust point very well. Give it a beautiful curve because that will affect your bustier. So I make sure I have a beautiful curve right there with my curve ruler. So I'm highlighting the lines for you to see them very clearly. So we are almost done with the tube dress right now. So we are going to take the measurements of on the waistline. Just skip the dart and take your waist divide by 4. So I'm taking my waist divide by 4 now, skipping the dart. I will mark and then add 2 inches for my side allowance. So after that is done, I'll connect from the bust point to the waistline. So I'll highlight the lines because I'm cutting out only the front piece now, and we are going to draft the back separately. So the strap is 6 inches. The strap is 6 inches for the front, and double of it will give us 12 inches for the whole strap. So I will lift up my fabric now and cut out my pattern. So when I came up to the neckline, I added 0.5 inch to the neckline, as you can see. So I'm going to cut out through the darts right there. So make sure you lift your front bodice, don't cut it together with the back. So I made my notch on the bust point right now. So I'll cut out the darts like that. So I'm going to rule the lines for the back because we want to start cutting out the back. So the lines we actually need is the shoulder line, so I've ruled my line right now and I'm highlighting them. So it's my shoulder line, the chest line and the waistline that you need for the back. So I'm going to place my bust pan measurements, or you can use your waist divide by 4 divide by 2 for your dart for the back. So I will come down from the chest line by 1 inch and connect my dart leg. So my dart intake is 0.5, 0.5 on the back. Then I'm going to create my darts. So I came down by 6 inches for the back as well from the shoulder. Then I'll contour by 1 inch, rule it to the 6 inches line. Just rule it off to the 6 inches line and cut off. So I'm going to take the measurement of my bust divide by 4. So which is 10 inches plus 1 inch for zipper and 2 inches for side allowance. On the waist, I will skip the dart of 1 inch. My waist is divide by 4. I will take the measurement from the beginning, skip the dart of 1 inch, mark, add 1 inch for zipper and 2 inches for the side allowance. Then I'm going to connect the back piece. So I'll come back to the 6 inches line, which is the neckline. So this is my 1 inch for that. I'm going to measure my shoulder divide by 2, which is 7.5. Just take away 2 inches, just like you do in off shoulder. Take away 2 inches. I have 5.5. From there, connect it to the chest line. So I've connected it right now. I'm going to extend my dart to touch the neckline at 6 inches. My strap remains 6 inches. So I will come down from the shoulder by 7 inches to recreate my neckline to the zipper line. So I'm going to cut out because we are done right now. So I will follow and add 0.5 inch on the neckline and on the armhole to the zipper line. Then I will cut the waistline and cut out the darts accordingly. So right now you can see we are done cutting the upper bodice of this dress. So this is the bust, the tube. If you are making a tube, this is just what you need for your tube. So I have my lining, 4 pieces, and I hairstayed all of them. So I'm going to hairstay my fabric as well and make notch on the chest line for the back for joining, and on the bust point for the front for appropriate joining. I'm using my bra cup. I'm not going to pad, so I'll just use my bra cup. It's usually beautiful for tube dresses. So here I'm done joining the back, as you can see, and everything is hairstayed. So this is the front of it. Both lining has been joined and ironed accordingly. If you have any excess, just go ahead and trim it out, as I'm doing right here. So the front is ready. We want to now jump into the strap. So the strap measures 13 inches in length, and on fold it measures 1.5. So the length is 13 inches. So I'll go ahead and stitch 0.5 inch, leaving one side open. I've done that. I stitch one side and left this part open. So I'm going to use my screwdriver. You can use your scissors or loop turner to turn it. So after turning it, I'll make sure I go over and give it a good press. So I've pressed it down right now. So I'm going to mark out ½ an inch on top. From there I'll measure 12 inches to be sure that I have my strap at exactly 12 inches from top to bottom. So now I've positioned it in the way I want to stitch the strap. So both the front and the back. So I will pin them on the dart line. You can see how I turn them and pin on the dart line. I'll do the same for the other side and pin on the dart line. So I'll bring in the back and pin on the dart line. So if you just follow this process, this is a very detailed video on how to make a tube gown. So if you just follow this, you'll be able to get it very appropriately. So I'm going to stitch and secure my strap both for back and for the front. So I have done that now, and the upper part is very much ready. So we are going to move over the skirt part right now. So I folded my fabric with my hip circumference divided by 4, and I added 3 inches to it. So I just measured it now to be sure I have my exact hip measurement. So now I'm ruling my border line, and from that border line I'll place 17 inches, which is my waistline, because that is the continuation of the gown. Then I'll mark my upper hip and my lower hip. So the upper hip and lower hip is 2 inches, and my knee I'll count 4 inches up and I'll mark. Then I'll take the length of this particular gown at 59 inches. So I'm going to highlight my lines. So I'm highlighting all the lines. So what I'm making here is just a pencil skirt, and I know you are familiar with it. So I'll place my waist divided by 4, add 2 inches to it. Place on the upper hip my hip divided by 4, add 2 inches to it. On the lower hip you will do the same and mark, then mark a straight line there. So I will take away 2 inches from the hip and mark on the knee everything I have, take away 2 inches, mark on the knee and on the hem, and then I'll rule a straight line across. So from the hip, I'll place my hip curve. You can see how I position it to the knee, and then from the hip to the waist. So right now we are done. I'll add half an inch on top of the waistline, and I'm going to connect because I have my seam allowances all on the fabric. So I'll cut out the length of this skirt. Make a notch at the center front. So I have cut out the lining with the same pattern for the front. So my lining is ready. So I'm going to cut out the back. So I folded my fabric the same way, but now is my hip circumference divided by 4 plus 4 inches. That's how I folded the back. So I have created my 1 inch zipper allowance and my border line. I will bring in the front piece and lay them to match the 1 inch zipper allowance and the border line. So after I have made sure they are corresponding or laying very well, I will come over and extend the lines to touch the zipper lines. So I'm going to contour the back by 1 inch. If you remember, we did that for the upper bodice. So I will take it to the upper hip. So I'm just using my ruler to have the hip curve very well. Then I'll return from the lower hip to the knee line. So make sure it touches exactly the center front on the knee line. So then from that knee line down, you mark a straight line. We are going to cut this part I'm highlighting off. So that is how we are going to cut when I'm going to cut now. So we are going to replace that part we are going to cut, the zipper allowance, by adding 1 inch. But if you come to the hip, you will notice that the 1 inch zipper allowance is still there. So I'm not going to replace it there. So I'll just rule my line from the knee to the hem, the 1 inch zipper allowance which I replaced. So on that hip line, I'm not going to replace, but on the waist line, I'll replace 1 inch because we contoured that part. So I'll bring my ruler and connect from waist to hip like that. Then turn my ruler from directly to the hip because I did not replace it to the knee line. So that is the boot allowance, the butt allowance for the back. So I will just follow the shape of my chalk line, and I'm going to cut out everything following the shape of the chalk line. So this method of making a gown is very beautiful. It gives you the shape you desire. So just give it a try and you enjoy making your gown, your pencil gown. So you can see I lift that part up on the zipper line and I'm cutting it off, as you can see. So the down part of the skirt is ready. So I will place what I have here on top of my lining, and I'll also cut my lining accordingly. So this is it, and I've cut out the lining, as you can see. So the down part is ready now to be attached to the upper piece. So I will first attach the front to the front. So I'm attaching all front to the front and all back to the back. So I'll just make a notch at the center front for up and down, so I'll be able to stitch them accordingly. So here is the lining. I'll also open up and make sure I stitch from center front to the end and from the other center front, so they will be equal. So I'm done stitching, and you can see I have some excess of 1 inch because we added 2 inches, but you can use it to create a dart if you want. But since this is dartless, I'll just cut it off It does not matter at all. It does not matter at all. So I've joined the lining. I still have that 1 inch excess. You can use it to create a dart too. So for the back line, I'm going to join the fabric starting from the zipper line. So whenever you are joining, make sure you start from zipper line to join. So I'll make a notch on the zipper part because it can confuse you, the side and the zipper part. So use your notch to identify it. So here I'm going to lay the center back of the down part to the center back of the upper part and stitch with 0.5. So here I've done that. That's the zipper part, and we still have 1 inch excess. So you will keep having 1 inch excess because we added 2 inches. So but it's not a problem. You can go ahead and cut it off. So here is the lining, and it is ready as well. So I'm going to finish up the neckline right now. So just go ahead and lay it the way I'm laying. Bring the lining and pin them that line to that line and secure the neckline accordingly. So I'll go and stitch at 0.5, which I've done right now. So I'm going to place my notches to enable me turn the neckline very appropriately. So chop off those areas. They might be very thick when you are turning it. So next is to flip my lining to the seams to the lining and top stitch. So I'm done top stitching, as you can see. So I have the front ready. So I'm going to sew my bra cup on it. Like I said, I'm using bra cup for this tutorial. So I will stitch and secure them very well with my anyhow you know how to sew your bra cup. So I'm using my needle and thread, but I'll first of all hold down with my pin. You can even go to the machine and stitch around it also if you want, but I'm securing with my needle and my thread. So I am done with my bra cup now, so you can see how it fits into the dress very beautifully well. So now the back neckline, I'm going to show you how to sew the back neckline. So I'll turn it to the front side and bring my lining that I've stitched, lay on top of it from the zipper line. So leave 1 inch for your zipper and stitch to the end. I will do the same, leaving 1 inch for my zipper and stitch to the armhole as well. So here I left 1 inch and I'm stitching to the armhole. So I'm going to top stitch on top of it by flipping all the seams to the lining. So I'm done top stitching, so I can go ahead and give it a good press. So here my dress is ready. We want to start marking the fitting or start fitting your dress using your bust circumference divide by 4 from the zipper allowance plus zip 1 inch zip allowance. You now mark. Then on the waist, my waist circumference divide by 4 plus 1 inch zip allowance. I'll connect from bust to waist. Then on the hip line, my hip divide by 4. I'll mark plus 1 inch zip allowance. Then I'm going to connect it with my curve ruler. Then on the knee, I'll just take away 2 inches from the hip. Just take away 2 inches and mark. Then and connect. That is for the knee line. So whatever I have on the knee line, I'll measure it and go to the hem and mark it, then connect with a straight line. So what I'm doing here is the fitting process. I'll also repeat the same process for the lining. In fact, all the 4 sides, which I have done now, as you can see. So I did that only on the back piece for all of them. So I'm going to lay it this way, edge to edge, edge to edge, secure them with my pin and go ahead and stitch both the fabric parts and the lining part. So I'm going to stitch to the end. So here I'm done stitching. You can see I have a perfect inseam finishing. In fact, I love perfect inseam finishing sewing. It gives you a perfect neat finishing inside and outside. So I'm reducing my lining by 1 inch right now. I'm reducing it by 1.5 inch. Sorry about that, 1.5 inches. Because we are going to turn the whole dress completely for a neat finishing. So now I'm going to sew the zipper. I'm laying my zipper right side to right side, that is the center back. Then I'll bring in my long zip, which I'm using. I'll take the measurement of my long zip. Of course, zippers have a standard measurement, and I'll mark 1 inch above my zipper. From that point, I'm going to measure 1 inch. But my slit opening is going to be at 17 inches. So I will come from the hem right now and measure 17. So I'll be able to know where to stop my slit opening. So that is where I'm going to stitch the part I'm highlighting from the zipper to the slit. So I will repeat the same process with the back as well. But remember that the back the lining has been reduced by 1.5. So just take your slit opening first at 17 inches, then mark 1 inch to the point of the zipper. Then highlight the line. So here we are done. So it's time for us to sew the zipper. So the zipper, I'm going to sew it 1 inch on the fabric alone, which I've done. And then I will turn the lining with it and secure with my pin. So I will follow the stitches after securing it with my pin. Now this will give me a perfect inseam again for my zipper. So I'll secure it in a way I can stitch. So you can see how I'm holding it with my pin. Don't hold it the other way around. So I will go over and stitch. In fact, I'm putting everything in before I stitch, so I will be comfortable while stitching the zipper. So I follow the seam allowance and I've done that. So I did that for the both sides. So you can see my zip is neat. So coming over to the slits, the first is to hold it and make sure the lining is matching with the fabric. Then normally you fold in 1 inch to stitch your slit. So I'll hold it on that part and turn it around. Go to my machine and follow the stitches there and run it straight. So I will continue from the stitches which I have done. So you see the stitches now. So once I get to the hem, I left 0.5 inch to sew the down part. So I will pick it up from that lining and sew, match them first. Match them seam line to seam line so they will be equal. So that means you put the whole dress inside once again. So for a perfect inseam finishing, you will keep putting the dress all inside. So I'm going to match them with my pin. So you need to be patient when making dresses like this. So I'll just secure with my pin from beginning to the end. of the hem. So I'll go over to my machine now and I'm going to stitch 0.5 inch. So I've done that and I left 5-inch opening to bring out the whole dress. But before that, I'll open up the seam. You can see there's a hole there. Just open up your seam like this and stitch straight. That is the slit part. So I'll go to the machine and do that, which I've done. So I'll bring out the dress from the 5-inch hole. So after bringing it out, so this is what I have. So I'm trying to put my hand and arrange and bring out everything accordingly. So I'm bringing it out. So here is the space of 5 inches. So I'll use my hemming gum to close it. But before I do that, before I use my hemming gum for it, I'll just try and turn it around and see if I can stitch to the extent I can. So I have done that. That is all I can stitch. So the remaining hole is reduced. I'll put my hemming gum and seal it up accordingly. So I've given it a good press. So thank you very much for coming to this tutorial. I believe this class was helpful to you. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. Like this video, share to family and friends, drop your comment on the comment section. See you in the next class.